Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Media Access Awards Easterseals Disability Services Interview Series. Today, we're talking to the 2019 Media Access Awards winner, Katherine Beattie. Katherine is a writer on the show NCIS New Orleans, and she's also a member of the Writers Guild of America West Writers with Disabilities Committee. Katherine is going to be talking to us about the truths and untruths about working with a disabled writer on a show. Let's check it out. We wrote the Media Access Awards with support from the the Writers Guild with Disabilities Committee and the Easterseals Disability Services, a best practices guide. And we tried in that to create a best practices for interviews, interviewing disabled writers and working with them on the set. So I'm gonna ask you now, when you do have to cover a set, is there anything that needs to be done specifically for you, or what advice would you have for producers working with disabled writers in terms of covering a set?
My biggest piece of advice for producers that are working with disabled writers are just ask them what they need. I figure out a way to make it work. You know, our show is very heavily locations based in Louisiana. So my first episode that I did when I was still an assistant, we shot in the woods, and they had one of the ADs piggyback me all through the woods because my wheelchair couldn't get there. And after that experience, I went and got myself a pair of crutches so I could get around, you know, the outdoor locations in Louisiana better, and stuff. And so there's no problem for me moving around that way or moving around the set. You know, and also I have to say, on our show, Chill Mitchell is on our show. He's a full-time wheelchair user, so our crew is very used to working with a wheelchair user. But there really hasn't been any huge issues. And I, you know, when we were coming up with this this best practices guide, I talked to our line producer and I said, you know, are there any reservations about hiring a wheelchair user or having a wheelchair user on set? Does it cost more money? Does your insurance go up? Do you have to worry about this, that, or the other thing? And he looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language. And he said, I don't know, why would you cost more money? You don't eat more food than anybody. You don't, you know, all of this stuff. So yeah, no. And, you know, the only thing that I probably struggle with on our set is, and this is just a function of where we shoot, is getting into the writers and producers trailer, because they're just a standard, you know, like a Star Wagon. And those are difficult for me to get into. But, you know, if and when we come back after this coronavirus, I know they're actively looking at solutions of different kinds of stairs and stuff that might be easier for me to access those trailers, because we're in Louisiana, and there's not an accessible trailer in the state of Louisiana. So they actually, I think they get Chills from Texas, and so he has an accessible trailer. And when we did an episode on our show with a bunch of disabled people, several guest cast in wheelchairs, and also almost the entire Olympic Paralympic wheelchair rugby team, it wasn't a problem. We needed to get a few more wheelchair accessible vans to transport them, and we made sure we had AC and bathrooms, but that was it. And film sets are they're so resourceful. They're used to making something out of nothing, and so accommodating a wheelchair user or 15 is not difficult for these people.
That invites the question, why do you think so many shows don't have writers with disabilities on their staff? Because you make it sound like it's certainly not an accommodation problem. You could deal with most accommodations. Why do you think?
Yeah, I think because there's just it is like an unknown factor, and so I always like that's why I always try to get out and say, look, I'm doing this. This is not a problem. Like if I could sit down with every showrunner in Hollywood and say, like, look how easy this is. I know you think that this is going to be difficult to accommodate this person, or it's going to be expensive, or you're worried about offending them and saying the wrong thing and all this stuff, and it's just because of I think ingrained attitudes that society puts on us through no fault of most of these people. That's just the way that, you know, people are kind of raised to look at disability as a negative thing. So I think the more people that we can get working on shows in any capacity, whether that's writing, you know, directing, producing, being an assistant, working in the art department, costumes, whatever, the more people will see that this is just another person with a unique point of view that can really add a lot to my show.